as a direct upgrade from 2013 to 2015. As you plan, if you see functionality here that is important to you, especially if you're on 2010 and you're planning out your upgrade, this certainly should help. I'm going to start off by spending a little bit of time on the system functionality, and I'm going to talk at a high level about a couple things. Number one, the advent of the cloud, and many of you may have heard of Azure. The release GP 2015 will actually feature a new functionality called Organizational Account User Authentication, which really is an Active Directory functionality, if for any of you that are technically minded, which means basically that you're going to have a single sign-on if you're using GP web client in the cloud. Now, that doesn't apply yet to the regular client, which the majority of our clients are using. But I guess the point of this is that Microsoft is moving toward leveraging the proverbial Microsoft stack, including Active Directory in this example. So it just makes it simpler and more secure. And this is what that window would look like when you log in. So you can see here that there's an organizational account, which takes advantage of the Active Directory functionality in the Azure AD. And your login would look something like this. So when you're logging in via the web client, you have a single sign-on, and once you're in, you're in. Another thing, and I'm going to talk at a very high level about the next couple pieces of functionality. What's being introduced is what's called service-based architecture. And this service-based architecture really is going to serve a couple purposes. Number one, there is a movement across many applications, including Dynamics GP, to provide greater workflow and also mobility functionality, as well as enhancing the ability to integrate data seamlessly. And so basically what we're going to run into with this service-based architecture information is that the system is actually going to eventually provide you with self-service tools such as time entry and others, so that you will be able to have someone that is remote, that's working on a tablet, working on a phone, maybe cross-platform, it may be an Apple application, and these applications will then allow you to update data or consume data in Dynamics GP. The other functionality that's coming along is the ability to integrate data in a different way. So many of you probably have applications that take advantage of what's called eConnect, and eConnect will continue to exist, but this service-based architecture will also start to permeate through the integration functionality and allow you to more easily integrate data between applications, whether that be CRM to GP, or if you have custom billing solutions or other things. And the last thing about this is going to be really nice is it's going to allow custom developers and ISVs to more easily write applications that will work directly with Dynamics GP. So I know that's high level. We'll be getting more and more information about what that's going to be, and it's really building a platform for the future. So that's going to continue to evolve. The next thing that we have is the ability to copy. I'm going to move on here. Just hang with me a second. We're going to have the ability to copy homepage and area pages. So for those of you that take advantage of the role-based homepage, you're now going to be able to actually copy a user from and their homepage and their role from one user to another. So what we're going to see is a screen that looks something like this, and you can see down here at the bottom you're going to be able to copy from user ID to user ID. And so if there are particular reminders, if there are particular quick links, if there are particular reports, or even business analyzer metrics that exist on that home page, you can copy those over from one user to another. And so that should save the setup time as you transition in new staff. It should be a real efficiency gain as your workforce evolves. I'm going to jump next into business intelligence. And so one of the things that many of our clients are now taking advantage of is what's called the Business Analyzer. The Business Analyzer can actually come in two forms. It can come as a piece of our homepage where we actually can put metrics of different kinds, whether it be based on sales or purchasing data or inventory or whatever it may be. There are a number of graphic-based dashboards that can be actually embedded into your homepage. But Business Analyzer is more than that. It actually acts as a dashboard tool that's separate from Dynamics GP, so that consumers of data don't have to be GP users but still get the rich dashboard functionality that they need as they make decisions based upon activity that happens within the system. So what we're going to see now is we're actually going to see that the Business Analyzer not only is going to be available as an application on your desktop, but you'll also, and it already is released on the Apple App Store. It's on the Windows Store. You can get it on Google Play. And you're actually going to be able to see these graphics and metrics and KPIs that are important to you even as you're traveling or off-site. And you'll have rich access to that information no matter where you are. This is really important as the movement of Dynamics GP and the ERP solutions is to really spread the information that is a result of the application across the organization so that people can work better together, they can share information and make better decisions. So this is really actually very, very important that this is happening because a lot of organizations that we're working with today will use tablets, whether it be an iPad or an Android, or even now there's a lot of movement toward the Microsoft environment as well. So just keep that in mind. I will say, just as an overall comment, that many of our clients still don't take advantage of tools like this, and I think it can be actually very beneficial whether you're trying to provide information to a sales team on the road, an executive that travels a lot, or even just providing this information to your accounting team. Also, as time has gone along, one of the things that is happening is Management Reporter is going, for many of you that are using Management Reporter, it's going to actually be, you can access these reports directly out of Dynamics GP rather than launching Management Reporter to get to those. So there is some integration that gets set up, and you can see there's a screen that looks like this that actually is going to be the foundation for that. And then what's going to happen is that we're going to have integration through what's called the navigation list functionality, so that you'll actually be able to see those Management Reporter reports directly within the GP interface. Rather than having to launch Management Reporter, you'll actually be able to launch those directly from Dynamics GP. So this is a really good movement as well. It makes it easier for the team to maintain for those of you that are Dynamics GP users. And then lastly, we talked just a minute ago about the Management Reporter, and one of the things that, for those of you who don't know, is Management Reporter does a great job of surfacing dashboards so that you can see a variety of different metrics in a variety of different forms, whether it be pie charts, bar charts, etc. And it really does a nice job of graphic presentation. But now they're building in the functionality through this setup window that you'll actually be able to see income statements, balance sheets, financial calculations, cash flow, etc., directly from the business analyzer. So not only are you going to see your traditional sales type reporting, purchasing type reporting that you might see in a dashboard, but you'll also be able to see your financial statement data directly from that dashboard as well. And that is new functionality. In the past, you weren't able to surface this information in that way. So you might be looking for certain data out of the business analyzer and different data out of management reporter, and this really centralizes all of that to make life easier. Another thing that is really nice is that Microsoft has updated the Smart List Designer, formerly just called Smart List. So for any of you on GP 2013, the Designer is the latest revision of the Smart List. And just to keep you up to date, there used to be a product called Smart List Builder. That product actually was developed by a company called E1. E1 now has taken back the Smart List Builder. The Smart List Designer is a greatly enhanced version of just the out-of-the-box Smart List, and gives you the ability to now create what are called Excel refreshable reports, which means that you can launch a spreadsheet, and as you launch that spreadsheet, the report you designed in Smart List Designer will be a refreshable report in Excel. So you launch the Excel spreadsheet, it brings in the latest data and can give you up-to-date information right away. So this actually gives you really another great example of information at your fingertips. And so as you can probably see in the discussion we're having around the business intelligence tools, there's really a big focus on making information more easily available to you so that you can leverage that. And it really does save you time and effort because a lot of these reports you can drill down into the data and interact with the data more easily. Also, every time you bring the report up, it's refreshed information without actually having to go into GP and launch a report. So keep that in mind for those of you that are heavy Smart List user, which is a fairly significant number of our user base. And so this is an example. You'll notice now that in the Smart List Designer, there is actually now a Publish button that allows you to publish these Excel refreshable reports. All right, so from a business intelligence perspective, we talked a lot about the Business Analyzer, talked a little bit about the Smart List Designer and some enhancements to that. Now what we're going to do is actually get into some of the core functionality within Dynamics GP and make you aware of some of the new functionality that's been put in place. So the first thing I wanted to tell you about was that in GP 2015, you actually have the ability to actually inquire into an intercompany transaction and actually see the transactions that occurred on both on the companies that were involved in the intercompany distribution. So this intercompany journal entry window is a new window that allows you the user to see the destination company entries as well as the originating company entries. So in the past, we would be able to see the originating company when I'm logged into a single company, and I would have to log into the other company to see the other side of the journal entry or the other side of the distribution. So now you'll be able to see that no matter which company you're logged into. And to give you some sense, this is what that window is going to look like. So many of you may already use the journal entry inquiry window, but you'll notice now that there's also an additional window that's available that's called Intercompany Journal Entry Inquiry. So on the left side of the screen here, you'll be able to see a journal entry, an original journal entry, and then on the other side, you'll be able to see the destination. Notice that it indicates the company ID, and it shows you that side of the entry. Not only can you now have greater visibility more easily into intercompany transactions, but you'll also have the ability to void those transactions, and it will actually void the transaction within both companies. So if I enter a journal entry that's an intercompany journal entry, and it enters an entry into my originating company and my source company, or my destination company, by voiding the original entry in the originating company, it will actually void both transactions. So this eliminates your need to log out of one company into the other so that you can catch the other side of that entry. So again, another focus on time savings. This has been a request for a long time because many of you, when you're using Dynamics GP, actually have more than one company database set up. And then here you can actually see the report that comes out of this that'll show you, this happens to be a payables transaction, will actually show you the distribution. You can see here down at the bottom of this report, the distribution will show you the company that was affected by the individual transactions. All right, so we'll move on from intercompany and talk a little bit about fixed assets. And there's a new year-end report that's available. This feature actually is an optional report that is available to print out as part of the year-end closing routine. Earlier today, we actually had I did a local GPUG session, and we talked about the year-end process. So many of you probably are starting to think about, hey, it's calendar year-end, what are the things I need to do? And so this is just new functionality that's going to be in GP 2015 that provides you with the ability to print this report. So on the report, you'll be able to see the year-to-date depreciation, cost basis, accumulated depreciation, and net book value. So the report's going to look something like this. And this is an optional report. It's not required when you're doing your year-end closing, but it certainly can accompany that process, and it'll show you every asset that's been affected. For any of you that are now using Dynamics GP using the web client, and for any of you that may be using the invoicing module is now available in the web client. As many of you may recall, when the web client was released, it was kind of a phased release with different modules being available during the process. And the invoicing module, which is not as heavily used as many of the others, is now being included in the web client. And just so you know, the web client is available for any of you that today are using the traditional client. You'll actually have the ability to access Dynamics GP via a web browser, and it actually does give you some flexibility in regards to logging into your solution. And so this is just a quick view of the interface of Dynamics GP in the web client, and I'm kind of tooting the horn here because I think the web client is certainly a nice way to go for many clients to use GP. The web client actually has virtually the identical interface, so from a learning and usability perspective, it can be great. But I will also say that there are, as you decide to go that direction, you'll need to make sure that you check out any of the additional ISV products or any of those types of things that you may be using in conjunction with Dynamics GP to make sure that they work as well in the web environment. So, but it can be a great environment for your users to use. Also, on the accounting side, they have made some changes to the payment terms functionality, and in particular around the discount date calculation. So with the changes for transaction due date, they've extended these pieces so you can actually have calculation options for discount dates that is similar to the options that you currently have for due date. So to take a look at this window, you'll see here that you got payment terms over here so that you can set up your payment terms, you can set up your due date, then you have the ability to define the discount date as well. And there are a number of different options that give it a little bit more flexibility. So here's an example of where you may end up with payment terms of 2% end of month, net 15, you have complete control now basically over how discounts are calculated, how discount dates are calculated as well. All right. Now they've also added the ability to calculate a transaction due date from the transaction date or from the discount date. So this calculation option, like annual or month date, and being able to add days or months to the calculation gives you really greater flexibility for setting up your payment terms. And so the ability to calculate an example when you're creating the payment terms gives you greater flexibility as well. So in other words, you have the ability to create very creative payment terms and also have the ability to test that term to make sure you've defined it properly before you use it. So that'll look something like this, very similar to what we were just looking at on the discount, but you have the ability to define the payment terms based upon a number of rules that you decide are most appropriate. So this is just giving our clients the ability to have more flexibility in regards to payment terms, both from the customer and the vendor side. Also, another thing that has been long awaited ever since the ability to email remittance advices to our vendors is the ability to email historical remittance advices. And so that functionality is now built into accounts payable. You can see the window here. So you have the ability to select a historical transaction, and then you can see here on the left we have a payment, and then we have the ability to redo or re-email the detail. And that actually could be a different email than maybe originally was sent to. So if someone now is escalating, or if there's someone in particular you need to send this copy to after the fact, that functionality exists. Now, this seems like a very logical piece of functionality that's just been added as well. So many of you probably use the purchase order processing module, and you know that purchase order allows you to take an invoice and match it up against you receive an invoice and match it against a purchase order and a receiving document. Well, now if by some chance you're entering a payables transaction and it should be matched, you'll actually get a warning message that'll look something like this that says the vendor has an existing purchase order. Choose continue to post or save. Choose go to close the window and do a purchasing navigation list. So this can actually take you directly into the purchase order module to do that matching functionality. So and because I know sometimes this can get confusing because there are transactions that are PO related and others that are not. All right. So the last area that I really wanted to make sure that we covered is workflow. And so many of you probably have heard the term workflow before, and maybe some of you have even used that workflow in different circumstances. So what I'm here to tell you about is that there has been a transition with Dynamics GP that started in Dynamics GP 2013 R2. That transition is moving away from the business portal. So some of you may use the business portal today. And GP 2013 R2 will be the last revision or the last version of Dynamics GP that will actually work with the business portal. So to kind of fill you in on that, Dynamics GP with the business portal has functionality to do things like requisitions, time entry, what's called order management, and so the difficulty became that not everybody was fluent in well, in the business portal utilized SharePoint, and not every organization had the skill set or the means or the technology to allow them to leverage SharePoint. And so as part of the process, Microsoft has moved away from those workflow functions and actually built the workflow directly inside of the Dynamics GP product. So the first releases of workflow tools came in Dynamics GP 2013 R2 with the release of time and expense that allows people to enter time and have it interface directly into project accounting. Also the release of requisitions, which actually would allow people to enter requisitions, send the requisition through an approval process, and have it ultimately then turn into a purchase order for a purchase. That workflow is being continued into Dynamics GP 2015, and so I'm going to talk about a few of the additional tools that will be available for you with this new release. So again, this does replace the business portal functionality. The one thing I wanted to make you aware of, and this will be something that you'll want to talk to your account manager about at Socius, is that licensing has changed. So that if you're still on, for instance, if you're on GP 2010, the business portal required what was called a light user license, which was a named user. And now there is what's called a limited user license. So this limited user has access into GP in a very limited fashion so that only certain things can be done, such as entering a requisition. So this is something that you'll want to look into in more detail as you get involved in these workflow conversations. So the first one that I wanted to talk to you about is a general ledger batch approval. Now, within Dynamics GP, as is, there is a little bit of that functionality, but it's not very comprehensive. And so now with this new functionality within GP, you actually have the ability to enter a batch. The user who enters the transactions then can move that data directly onto a workflow by submitting the batch for approval, and then an individual can be notified via email or via their to-do on the homepage of their Dynamics GP. And then once that person has approved the batch, then it can go on through the normal process. So any of the batches in the general ledger have the ability to have this functionality attached to them. This is an example of the workflow maintenance window with a GL batch. And this is unfortunately all we have at this point because GP 2015 hasn't been released yet, so we can't show you live product, but we will as soon as possible. But the idea here is that we will be able to set a group of rules that will allow us to make determinations on who approves batches. With this whole workflow concept comes some additional functionality. So we talked about the requisition functionality, and so now we're actually going to be able to continue enhancing the purchase requisitions functionality. And so GP 2015 allows you to enter requisitions like we talked about, and that requisition can then tie directly into a purchase order. And so this is more of an employee self-service functionality. And again, the individual user can be a limited user with no additional rights other than to enter requisitions. The other idea with these requisitions is the ability to say, John Doe can enter a requisition. He may want to buy a laptop, but the approval process will allow the individuals to add the details about what is our standard workflow, what is our standard laptop that we use when new people are onboarded or when new laptops are required, et cetera. So the whole workflow functionality gives us the ability to connect all of that together so that good decisions are made and by the appropriate people. So this is an example of what your homepage could look like with requisition functionality. So you can see here that on my window I have a purchase requisition status. And so I have a requisition list, and this is personalized by the individual whose homepage we're on. Also, on the right-hand side, you can see what that requisition screen looks like, very similar to what a purchase order entry window looks like. Continuing down the theme of workflow, we'll now have the ability to have vendor approvals. So if decisions need to be made in regards to who we work with, then you certainly have the ability to build that workflow and get approval before you can actually interact with that individual vendor. And so the window could look something like this. One of the things you may note here on this workflow maintenance window, you'll see payables batch approval, purchase order approval, purchase requisition approval, and then vendor approval. All of those different workflows can be used together through this process. And then lastly, once everything has gone through from a requisition to a purchase order, if appropriate, into a payables invoice being entered, then we, just like general ledger batch approvals, we can also create payables batch approvals to allow us to flow through, not be able to post invoices until the approval process has been done. Don't by any means look at this as a replacement for any kind of document management system or anything like that, because those can be more comprehensive, but this does provide a very nice base level functionality in regards to approving batches. And you can see that the window looks something like this. We can do the same thing with receivables batches. So this allows us to have complete control over that. And the window looks very similar to what we saw on the payables side. Notice on this workflow window that you'll see a drop-down window here. On the receivable side, you see sales. You'll also see purchasing, and so these workflows can be broken into the different categories of modules that you're using. Another new feature in regards to workflow is the ability to add project employee expense report entry. So this could be a very nice base level expense reporting functionality that you can actually send the expenses through a workflow process. So this works with project accounting. So employees can create expense reports for any project to which they are assigned. The employees can also be set up to allow delegates to enter expense on their behalf. And that becomes really important, especially if you got project managers or consultants or engineers that are out on the road, and their ability to allow a centralized individual to take care of this process is very useful. Also, you'll be able to see those documents from an expense entry window on a navigation list. So you'll see something that looks something like this. On every one of these workflows, you're going to notice that there's a submit button, so that once the information has been entered, then you have the ability to submit that. All right. Now what I want to do is spend some time on some workflow related to the payroll and HR side of the business, if you're using those modules. The workflow for employee profile and employee skills and training. If you're using HR, you'll know that an individual does have the ability to have skills and training assigned to them, so that that can be used for a variety of reasons within the organization. This allows an employee to actually update their profile, which may include the number of dependents. It may include an address change, but also then you can see skills and training. So if they've taken a test and gotten certified on something, or if they've taken a class that was required, those types of things can all be entered through this employee profile update. So a window might look something like this. And again, this can be a limited user. So you can see the employee enters some basic information about themselves, like their address, their name, some personal information, contacts. The nice thing about this is that once that information is submitted, it has to be approved before it actually updates your HR and payroll records. Skills and trainings the same way. So you have the ability to, you can see on this window there are multiple tasks. There's education, there's tests, there's skills, there's training and training history. So you actually have the ability to track all of that stuff within the system, but also the employee can participate in the process. So this eliminates a lot of emails and eliminates a lot of paperwork and so forth, so that the employee can participate in getting this type of thing done. And then along with that, the team manager, what this allows is that the team manager then has visibility into his or her team so that they can actually approve this information once the updates have been made by their employees. So you're going to have a window that looks something like this. You'll have a list of the employees, their team, and then you'll have the ability to process that through. Also, employees will have the ability to enter their direct deposit information. So if you're using payroll, this allows them to either enter or update their direct deposit information, which can then go through a workflow process to make sure that it updates payroll appropriately. And it looks something like that. So they can change the distribution, either split accounts or change accounts, and then send it in for approval. And then also, this is kind of a workflow, but this allows individual employees to go in and look at and print their pay stubs directly from the solution. So you can see here that I have a window that allows me to select a particular pay and then get a view and can print a report that will show me the details of my pay. Also, on the HR and payroll side, employees can update their W-4. They can make changes, submit the changes, and then they can then be approved through the HR team. And you see that this window looks very much like a W-4. Employee benefits. This is another employee self-service function that has been added. This is a benefits view window, allows employees to view their benefits. There will also be a benefit self-service that allows people to actually select their benefits during open enrollment. That actually is probably still in process. But you can see here that this is the employee benefit view window. And again, this is through a limited user license that allows them to see just this particular information. Now, lastly, then, what we have here is what's called HRP Pending Approval Navigation List. This actually is for the approvers on the HR side. This gives them a list of the activities and the tasks that they need to approve, which it could include time cards, employee profile updates, skills, W-4, and direct deposit. So this allows you to approve and complete multiple transactions by simply checking the boxes next to the action that you need to attend to. It looks something like this. All right. So that is what we have thus far in regards to new functions.